Today I thought maybe more some discussion about practice of equanimity and concept of emptiness. We talked a lot, and now I'm still figuring out. Okay. Practice of equanimity, when you look at it in the Lamrim, it is introduced not at the beginning in a small scope. Is not at also in the medium scope, but it's much more introduced into the practice when you're trying to do a practice of a bodhicitta. Okay, bodhicitta practice. Bodhicitta practice require compassion. Compassion practice require equanimity practice. So therefore, there's a intensive. There's a. I think some of the instruction comes. There's a 9-round way to meditate into equanimity. It's much more, quite elaborated. So basically today we want to understand what is the equanimity, okay? And there's basically I think we have to look at it. We do have a compassion, we feel compassion, we experience compassion. And the question comes, if we just generally ask question, when we experience compassion, for the strangers more, or for your loved ones more, and the person who bothers you a lot. 3 options only. Okay, so if we ask this question, you feel more compassion for not for human being, more for animal. Human beings are like too difficult. More compassion for animals. So if we look at these 3 questions, you feel like, neither, I don't feel, in my experience, I don't feel compassion for neither my close ones, more for the stranger because there's not that much history. There's no so much interference. So I feel more compassion for the strangers rather than the close one. The close one is more difficult. The difficult one's also difficult. The close one also difficult. The stranger one's the best person where I experience compassion, loving kindness. But usually on the text, kind of when you read it in Lamrim, it assumes kind of you have more compassion towards the person that you are close. That kind of assumed. But if you look at in our own day-to-day life experience, it's a compassion somehow for the strangers, don't have too much history. It's kind of like a simple. And somehow you're able to feel compassion. Is that true more? Like more for the strangers. More the strangers that so basically here we need to kind of analyze when you're doing a meditation of equanimity. For the stranger, why? Because there's no history, isn't it? That's really the main thing. You are able to kind of instantly able to feel loving kindness and compassion. That pure mind, they're able to connect very simple because there's no interference, isn't it? So if that is the case, now over here, is this interference is my mind projection, or this interference exists within the people? Okay, so here I think equanimity practice is so much about clearing up the history, or letting go the history, or minimizing the history. Isn't it? So usually the word equanimity doesn't really carry that meaning, isn't it? The equanimity word, the word equanimity, kind of politically correct, isn't it? It's like, yeah, equanimity is really good, it's really wonderful. But if you really go beyond the terminology, it's somehow either letting go the history, or you're not too much pay attention, or not exaggerating the history, or maybe the practice of equanimity is about the history, the story, the narratives, or letting go that. And once you have that, then you have a same that we're able to feel compassion instantly towards to the stranger. Likewise, we're able to feel the compassion towards to the anybody once we're able to kind of. So practice of equanimity is, do you think, usually in a lamrim is kind of comes like, is much more logical way of looking, like why are you discriminating? That's also very logical, why, we all equal, we all in the same journey, we all in the same situation, we all in the same kind of challenge, and why you want to discriminate, okay? So I think there's several ways to look at it in the practice of equanimity. One thing is the question is practice of equanimity suggesting for us, we all in kind of one dimension. My relation towards the all living sentient being is a one dimension. This is not possible, isn't it? This is not possible. We all have a different relationship. We will have a due to our own karma. We have some kind of natural. All this due to karma. It's not voluntarily, it's due to our own history. Due to our own history, we will have there will be never be some kind of so equal. Is not impossible, isn't it? So equanimity practice is what you think it is suggesting. Equanimity practice is really the most important part. Even in today's, there's I think some articles saying like, oh, maybe mindfulness practice is much more about equanimity. It's not so much about, maybe that's the really we are missing, people trying to exploring, maybe equanimity, that's the most mindfulness practice. And when you look at it, like for example, like a popular speaking, pay attention without no judgmental. Pay attention without no judgmental. Pay attention without no judgmental. Judgmental towards to whom? Towards to yourself. So maybe non-judgmental is some kind of practice of equanimity towards to your own self, isn't it? So I mean, like when we're judging for our own self, we are opening up our file history, isn't it? We're opening and grading. We're giving grade to our own self. Oh no, this is A, this is A plus, this is not B, this is C, D. So the main thing is the practice of equanimity. What that really means. Is practice of equanimity is very specific, or practice of equanimity can be applied it is a very expand. Practice of equanimity is very expand. It's not that specific. You're trying to level up everything in the same category. This is not possible. So it is a so this is so one is your perceptions of individual. You are trying to bringing into the neutral states of our awareness. And that's also very strange, neutral state of awareness. This is a state of awareness that is not so much poking for the history. The mind that kind of able to connect and sees, very present, and not trying to bringing up rest of the history or anything. Somehow the mind that able to connect in the present. So maybe the equanimity, maybe the word equanimity is a middle way of awareness. This is not so much, this is a way you connect. That mind that undistracted. Basically, maybe equanimity is, maybe mind of equanimity is awareness that connects to individual without a distraction. Maybe equanimity have some kind of level of a concentration, concentrating into that present moment. Maybe equanimity is just mind that awareness that abide into the present moment. Like for example, when we say I feel more compassion for stranger than the close one, is basically that mind is so much abiding into that present moment and present situation. Somehow, by the circumstances, it doesn't bring any kind of history. So therefore, it is a fully present. That fully present awareness brings compassion naturally. That fully present awareness becomes fully concentrated, undistracted. So somehow over here we need to understand equanimity is something kind of like, it's not necessarily concentrating, but is undistracted. It is a pay attentioning, it is undistracted, it's not kind of like I'm concentrating. So maybe we understood equanimity from pay attentioning into the present moment. That basically means undistracted, ultimately. Undistracted over here is basically you are not opening up different files. You keep that in the Word document. Not necessarily delete, but keep there, keep in a hard drive. But when it needed, we can pull it out. Okay, so basically our problem is we open up all the time. It becomes a distraction for the process of awareness when we're connecting. So equanimity. So can we say equanimity is something like that? Based on when we express, I have a more compassion for strangers. I feel more compassion for strangers. In the Lamrim doesn't assume that I feel more okay. Now, by saying that I feel more compassion for stranger, is that compassion is how that kind of compassion have a longevity? Now we have to look at it. You have some compassion comes very quick and disappear very quick. Something comes quick, something disappear very quick. So here, maybe if you look at it, compassion towards the stranger is maybe very easy to arise because you have not so much history and somehow you see the situation, you are fully present into that one, so you have a natural response, that kind of like a pure state of a mind, so you have a natural response. But now the question comes here, how much this compassion have a longevity? In general speaking, maybe some individual might have a very longevity, you are committed, you feel responsibility and moving on and on, that kind of like carrying on such a compassion action. So now in a general speaking for the stranger, in a general speaking, yes, I feel that kind of very, then when it comes more further, continuity or for the flow of that kind of compassion in action, usually for the stranger, I think generally like, how you think, generally speaking, the continuity will be a little bit more shorter, isn't it? Is pretty much we can say is it will be shorter because there's not so much substance, karmic substance or whatever, that can back it up, that compassion to sustain. Okay, it's very easy to come, arise, but it's so now we go for the compassion towards to the loved ones. It's a very complex compassion, but it have some kind of karmic substance back, it kind of like at the background. So it have a kind of like a, somehow it is a it karmic responsibility. So therefore, so we need to see equanimity feeling is somehow it opens the gate, it welcomes. Now for the compassion to have a longevity and compassion with the responsibility is require somehow karmic foundation. Then so-called like a close one, the loved one, whatever we labeled, somehow that becomes kind of like a much more, kind of the responsibility. Do you think that's the truth? In the compassion have a more backup, or that compassion have a more burden, more burden or more backup? Yes.
I find for me the compassion for my loved ones is completely wrapped up in attachment.
Okay.
And so there's also, it's very intense.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, and it can flip.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I have an elderly mother
Mm-hmm.
who's sick, and it can be very intense, and it can be very intense. It's not true,
Mm-hmm.
as I see it, true compassion. It's too wrapped up in
Attachment.
my own attachment.
Okay. Now again, this is a so now from the Mahayana point of view, it is encouraging. Definitely, I think that's the compassion wrap up with the attachment, and there's a very sincerely wants to, wishing for well-being, but it have that kind of some kind of aggressiveness, some kind of tenseness into integrating into that. So let's look at like a layout. Due to equanimity practice, you have that kind of openness, welcoming, you expand it. Then you have that kind of compassion, but not necessarily karmic connection. It don't have that kind of like a karmic connection, have a tendency of a karmic connection is a attachments is part of the package. When we say karmic connection, it's attachment comes part of the package. Okay, but it also brings very powerful, energetic compassion. At the same time, it's also bringing intense. Okay, so here. Obviously, we'll say like, I want to, that attachment, I think that understanding of attachment is, I think, is very interesting. I think this is another way to look at it. Can we have an attachment? Can we train our own self to be attached without self-interest? Usually, that's not the history we have. That's the history. Usually, attachment is so much related with some kind of like a self-interest. That's what I want. Some kind of ego demands and send kind of foot soldier, which is the attachments, go and then do the jobs. So here, basically, Attachment is kind of like an energy. It is an energy, it's mental energy, but it is run by very bad negative CEO, manager, which is the ego is running, ego run by ego. So here to look at it, because in the same concept, today's world we have this concept of clean energy. Do we have a clean attachment? Still you can run, you won't get any side effect, still things get be done. That's kind of concept, like you're still utilized. In a Tibetan terminology, clean attachment have a different title. Instead of, in the Tibetan we have word, maybe in the English too. There is attachment, desire. We did different terminology: craving, attachment, desire, inspiration. If you look at it, they might have a similarly, like for example, I'm desired to liberation. Can we say I'm attached to liberation? I'm inspired, I have inspiration for liberation. So we can have a kind of like when we say I'm clinging to liberation, you see it have lots of tenseness. I'm attached to liberation, you see then it have some kind of like unbalance. I'm desired to liberation. What you say? Do you see desire and attachment kind of same thing?
Could go either way.
Huh?
That could go either way.
Either way? I have a desire, because
It's almost like a positive
desire.
attachment, desire, whatever.
Okay.
So it could be good, or at least it gets you on the correct track.
Mm-hmm.
Or it can be really bad and prevent you from
Exactly.
going the right way.
So what we are looking for here is that the emotion that have a power and it kind of pulls you up, but at the same time we don't want, there's something we want, something we don't want, that somehow it pulls you so badly that you get so kind of rigid. So that's really what we wanted. So for example, inspiration, that's somehow, basically any kind of powerful emotion, somehow it becomes power because it have an ingredient of expectation. Ingredient of expectation. So I think the our practice and our journey is can we kind of not run this all-powerful emotion without ingredient of expectation. So that's the kind of, I think, that recipe is a disaster recipe, that expectation. So like now, in a general world, do we consider expectation is good or not? I expected you that. Expectation, what do you think expectation is?
That can be good or bad too.
Mm-hmm. That can have a good and bad too, isn't it? Expectation. Did you think?
But mostly, I see it as something that feeds your ego.
Mm-hmm.
It's an I. Expectation usually goes with I. I expect this, I want this, I desire this, I think this conclusion will happen. It's my expectation kind of feeds your own
Self-interest.
self-interest. Right?
I think it depends on if you're attached to the expectation or not.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If you have attachment.
Can we have an expectation without attachment? Maybe we say like, oh, I don't care less. Or, like how, okay, anyway, so so if you look at this whole things, how is it coming from? Okay, here compassion, but we want to have a compassion, but this same like this concept of a, it's polluting my awareness. It's polluting my compassion. It makes unsustainable my compassion. Can I have a clean energy, clean, unpolluting? So that's, I think, if you look at same concept, we have this, there's all these things happening, but it's same time is creating mess, it's creating pollution. And the same thing, internal world, this compassion towards to the loved ones have so much attachment ingredient inside there, so it's really polluting my compassion. It's polluting my compassion, it's polluting my relation, it's polluting my practice. So that's what we don't want. So the question comes, how we can unpolluted compassion experience. It's the same concept like clean compassion or clean energy or same kind of things. So how you push back? We're talking about the expectations, we're talking about self-interest. So it almost like a going back and looking where it's coming from. Is this coming from? Okay. So here I think to undo that compassion which have a strong attachment, I think is require the motivation of that compassion. So maybe the training comes the fundamental. Where is the mediator? How do you call it in a usual terminology? Yes.
It seems like if you can step back and not open any files and look at the person just as a regular person, like you would a stranger, then you can get a glimpse, and then that can help give you opportunity to work with that.
Yeah, maybe. So okay, that's give you a taste possibility, but that kind of like a. I think that's a good point. Another way to look at it, maybe compassion with attachment, maybe if you look at it very carefully, like a little bit meditating into the way it is focusing, maybe. Maybe we have to look at the focus. The focus or the source of energy is not the compassion driven the help and serve. Maybe the attachment driven. Attachment is the running the compassion to do the work. Or we need to kind of, where's the focus? Maybe.
But I think maybe patience has something to do with it also. With a stranger, we would be quietly listening, paying attention. Whereas with our close ones, we already know all the yada, 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 yada.
Exactly.
Get to the point.
Exactly.
So I think sometimes if we had more patience with the ones we love, we probably would be more compassionate.
Okay.
Or at least come across as more compassionate.
Yes. So I think the ultimate, our objective will be history with the patient. Like to develop patience, we're not able to delete the history. We cannot delete our history. So our goal is like having those whole history. Maybe, hopefully, this history may become source of a clean compassion. Right now this history is the interfering for the clean compassion. But now, temporary solution, we say, okay, if without that history, it opens up so many possibilities. Patience, you're able to put patience, and so on and so on and so forth. But we cannot deny the history. History is there. And what the option left for us from the emotional point of view? Are we doomed, or that history doomed, or maybe there's some way to hopefully it doesn't open all the time, that history. Yes.
I was thinking about the whole thing about having history and how it also seems like step even further a little bit back and think about the history that we're creating in our minds that actually has nothing to do with actual people. And I'm thinking of that in terms of like, are there groups of people we tend to have made up stories about? So whether they're strangers or not, we treat a certain way. So I think we have to step even further back and look at what is all that we are creating in our mind that's not really there. Otherwise, I feel like it's very hard to have equanimity because I feel like it's easy to fall into petty, arrogance. It's easy to fall into these other things until we really look at our own minds and really try to develop motivation that is, I'll say, actually equal towards people or beings just because they exist. So I think it's kind of important to add.
Perfect. Okay. I think that the wisdom which mediator is kind of, what's the meaning of mediator? Like, what's the etymology of a mediator?
It's like a person that brings two people together that have different opinions. They're
Okay.
trying to mediate a resolution.
Okay.
Come to the middle.
Come to the middle. Okay. So maybe in this case, it's so much into our projection. There's so much mediator have to take our perceptions of reality and the self. I think that's maybe the one wisdom. I think that kind of like a restlessness and tenseness comes through that energy kind of kicked out so quickly and that projection goes so fast. So mediator maybe, kind of the wisdom mediator maybe it's just to slow down that kind of projection. Slowing down that reality that we are projecting in the conventional world and conventional reality. Okay, so so maybe the language of that mediator, the wisdom, is this necessary? Can we say that? Is this necessary? Is this necessary? We can label for that mediator, that wisdom mediator, is this necessary? My reaction is, this reaction is necessary. Is this reaction is necessary? So maybe it's not so much. I think sometimes we say it's no good. The mediator language have to be very careful. Otherwise, it doesn't become mediator. It becomes enemy again. Yes.
It's interesting because just this morning before I came, I was reading from Sharon Salzberg's book on compassion, and in that she has acronyms for us to use in our daily life to apply to situations as they arise. And she was talking about this issue of how we self-identify with an outcome. So the acronym she had was RAIN. RAIN, R, is to recognize the emotion as it arises. Let's think about my love, my attachment to someone I know. To acknowledge it. Okay, so that's arising. To investigate it. And then to non-identify with it. She says it's the identification. What's interesting is the identification, it's the solid identification with the emotion. Like it's not being able to tease the two apart. It's like the emotion is the reality. But to see that it's just an emotion and not identifying with that emotion. So it's love and desire. Love and desire, like to detach from it. see it and to take a non-identifying position with it. And that perhaps is why it's easier with a stranger, is because we don't have that identification. It's a neutral. Whereas with someone we don't like or someone that we like, there's an identification that becomes, that allows that emotion to attach. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Nice acronym.
So it's a nice acronym.
And the problem too, when you get to that, if you recognize it and you go, is this necessary? It tends to shoot back at me like, you're so stupid. You know, why do you always do this? You know, why can't you change it? So there's a total lack of self-compassion, because I can watch these things happen with my mother and my children and other things, but I can see it.
Okay.
And then I just get down on myself. And it's like, I've done it again. I've gotten tied up in this. So it's very tricky.
So it seems like if you're down on yourself, or if you upset another person, it's self-absorbed, either way. So maybe that, either you're upset at yourself or the other person. Maybe that's part of, it seems like that's part of the problem, is self-absorption, instead of getting out of yourself.
Like cutting the grasping of the emotion of your own personal reaction, making it about you. Doing that and seeing it more clearly.
Well, maybe there's a perfect expectation. Or one to look at.
But then we also have our own expectation, like you were saying. And then the other person have their set of expectations. And when they do not line up to my expectations, that is when the problem happens,
So maybe we should have like when things doesn't line up with my expectation, how I practice. We should have that specific title. How should I, how should I think we should have that mantra when when things doesn't, I think, we have somehow mantra, it should meet with my expectation. But if we honestly analyze and observe, that's not realistic. So it's like what mantra we naturally given lineage, we have the lineage, it should meet my expectation. It's a given lineage, we have that. And then in reality, if we analyze, impossible.
Right.
Okay, but we react. So changing will be, and it's some kind of mantra that says maybe doesn't meet my expectations. We don't want to wish to never meet our expectation. We don't make that prayer, but we have to make our openness. That's, I think, there's a possibility, and I think that fundamentally, there's just several deadlines created by our own ego. Deadlines like this have to happen, this have to happen, this happen, that time. So that I think here not necessarily it's a realistic deadline. So here I think mantra that we have to, the commitment that we have to do, mantra that we need to recite, I think will be something that constantly kind of softening that deadline. It's not possibility. It's a tentative deadline. Ego is giving me a tentative deadline. It's not like the deadline of a deadline. That expectation have to meet. So I think, I think we need to create it. I think we need to develop our own several mantra that's somehow losing up that kind of expectation. Mantra that is our own self. Mantra that, like for example, is this necessary? Of course, maybe 1 or 2 times we might going to kick for our own self, but that will be healthy kick based on it. some kick need to be good. I think that might happen, but I think, is this necessary? I think that kind of awareness we are kind of like building up. We're bringing our own emotional protection, and I think that's, is this necessary? And if there's a reaction, is this necessary? I'm reacting again. Oh, I'm reacting again. I think several times, I think we will, but again, the process of make sure we are not reacting for reaction, so there is some kind of, I think, I think we need to also see these things can happen for us. I think that kind of like almost like a gentleness. Yes, I'm a human being. Yes, things can happen, but I don't want to make it as a habit. I think that kind of gentleness, is this necessary? And things happens, yes. So there is some kind of kindness through those experiences towards our own self. I think it is usually we tend like, oh, now I want to change, and the change didn't happen, then we create another reaction. So I think this kind of like kind of acceptance. I think some kind of acceptance. Yes, this has happened, but yes, I want to. There's any kind of discipline developed based on some kind of like awareness and gentleness. But again, somehow, if we look at back, our habit, our culture is either kind of that kind of rigid, so either this or either that. So maybe we need to look at where this coming from. Where this coming from? Is this what? Maybe if we look at that behavior, its own self, what is really happening? Why it have to be this kind of so aggressive towards to the positive, is so aggressive towards to the negative and the positive. That aggressiveness, okay? That aggressiveness require wisdom mediator. Wisdom mediator, okay? So I think whole teaching into the meditation of emptiness is, I think, the ultimate mediator. I think the wisdom is really trying to perceptions of reality bring into a middle way. Perceptions of another living being, perceptions of yourself, perceptions of a situation. So ideally, if we, maybe our training, our yoga, our mental yoga, maybe at the beginning in the morning, maybe it should be this kind of meditation or mental yoga of bringing perception into the middle way. Maybe we need to figure out that that kind of exercise, then somehow your rest of the 9 to 5, we can run into that platform. If we're able to run our 9 to 5 into that platform, awareness of that platform into the middle way, maybe that will be like reaction-free zone. Reaction-free zone. Karmic-free zone. So I think, fundamentally, I think Buddha's teaching is like wisdom, meditation over emptiness is the medicine that cures 100 disease or something that like, this is like ultimate, this how we can take the view of a reality perception into that kind of like into the middle way, middle way view. Okay. So maybe now. So then, do we need to make a separate worked out practice to developing compassion, developing concentration? Maybe we are already embedded, all the concentration, the ultimate concentration. What's the word embedded? You can say that?
Invented?
Embedded?
Embedded?
Oh, embedded.
Embedded? Yeah, embedded.
Inside you, right?
Yeah,
Very, like intuitively.
yeah, within our own self. Only the work that we have to do is unleash that.
It's there, it's us.
It's latent. It's
Even not necessarily, yeah, it can say potential, but is basically, right now what we see is we somehow like we need to develop that. We need to kind of construct that. We need to go through a process. And although there's lots of these things, maybe the main job, spiritual journey is a journey of stopping that floodgate of a karma. Maybe the floodgate of a distraction. Maybe our whole spiritual journey is just to stop that flood. The path is clear all the time. There's no two things, stopping the flood and all the constructing the road. There's not necessarily, there's already what you think. It sounds really good, but we don't have the two things. You just stop the flood of a distraction, flood of aggression, flood of reaction. The main job is just to stop the flood. And yes.
I was just thinking that would be the best we could hope for. Realizing, or at least after listening, it hadn't occurred to me how advanced the idea of equanimity was, and that in order to achieve bodhicitta we need equanimity, but in order to achieve equanimity, ultimately we have to have a realization of reality as it is. And so the idea of achieving bodhicitta separate from emptiness does not seem possible to me. And so then it seems the best I can do is suspend my judgment, because my judgment is so impaired. So yeah, I would say that kind of holding the floodgate of emotion is that's the best I could hope for at this point. For maybe
So, yeah, that's really I think exactly ultimately without the practice of wisdom, I think compassion can be limited in the practice of. So here, practice of wisdom is basically. So based on our discussion here, what you think, okay, so therefore what should I pay attention in first? So based on all this discussion we're having, going back and forth, and so here, to strategizing, what should I pay attention first? Okay, what would be, where should I pay attention? It's so complex, the complex is so vast, but where should I pay attention? First, where should I start? where should I start my mediator process? There's so many areas. I cannot mediate all entire in one time. So where I should start that process of a mediator? From which corner I should start? So I think from the Buddha's teaching point of view, I think this whole complex that we created in the world, the things that we perceive and we believe, is some kind of a reflection of a complex of an internal mirror reflection in some way. And so therefore I think first we need to mediate self-mediation. Can you say that? Self-mediation. So there is a lots of this kind of like this concept of we need to meditate on emptiness of a self. Don't go out there and fix the world. Really fix within our own self. So there's this kind of mediating this, I think. So where we start, we basically starting. So maybe if you look at it, I have attached, so therefore my compassion is not getting so healthy, it's become limited. So I'm attached to my relative. Where this attachment is coming from? Maybe it's some kind of, that attachment is some kind of mirror reflection of a self-attachment. Okay? If you look closely for that attachment, although it is a label, I'm attached to my relative, but again, if you look at it, the whole circle is coming back to the self-attachment, isn't it? It's kind of like a tricked. I'm attached to that, but somehow it comes to attach to myself. If that attachment doesn't follow self-attachment, that's attachment going to fall apart, isn't it? Because the difficulty coming because it is not following the order of a self-attachment. So it is so much about Buddha's teaching, not knowing of a true nature of myself is creating. It is a kind of like a substitute by self-attachment. My, awareness of the nature of my existence is substituted by attachment for myself, so it's run by that kind of self-attachment. Then again, now the question comes, what you mean I'm not self-attached? I'm so self-hating. No, what you're talking about? No, I don't like myself at all. Yeah.
You start with your own emptiness. You
Yes.
take joy in your own emptiness.
So I think now this is again this is very realistic. We are very very vivid. Sometimes like this, I hate myself. I really don't like myself. But that also hated coming from self-attachment. That's so clear, self-attachment. But now, okay, we go back to the Buddha's teaching. There's nothing to hate because you are not there. There's no you. Who's you? There's no you. That becomes kind of very, very nihilistic, obviously. We're talking about you. So I think this concept of emptiness, again, there's nothing to hate because there's no, sometimes I was thinking, Buddha himself, he grown up in a Hindu culture, different culture. He's grown up that. Maybe when he kind of questioning entire this culture, maybe he might lose his identity. I'm just kind of assuming, just as an individual person, as an individual person. maybe he lose like maybe his identity crisis. What you call that? Identity crisis. And then maybe he'd call like, maybe through that, maybe he'd like, what the heck? There's no such a self. There's no where I'm hanging. This is a crisis identity is hanging to something, and maybe he's trying to look at where I'm hanging. And it's like really trying to looking into it. There's no such a thing that I'm hanging. It's my own projection.
But also many times you said, look at yourself in the mirror, right?
Mm-hmm.
But many times what we think is our problem, like many times if you're really angry, it may be more of a fear. So when you're talking about your mother, that it, we can all get upset with somebody, but is it fear of loss? Is the anger actually fear of loss?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it fear of something else many times? But it is always, what we think our problem is may not necessarily be the actual root of why we are mad.
Yes, yes. And one question, getting mad is, you think, negative? Getting mad. Is emptiness contradicts getting mad? Is emptiness contradicts getting wrong? Emptiness contradicts with a mistake. Is emptiness and mistake can be side by side? Emptiness is acknowledging mistake. Emptiness is acknowledging right thing, wrong thing. What you think? Is emptiness is a solution even mistake happen? Is emptiness a solution for not to make a mistake? Emptiness, maybe because of emptiness we make a mistake. Huh? What you think? Is sometimes we might think it is some kind of solution. Emptiness is some kind of emptiness is so basically mistake, wrong, all that things which creates negative things and so on and so forth. Is emptiness contradicts mistake? Does emptiness acknowledge mistake? Teaching of emptiness acknowledged mistake? I think so. What do you think? It acknowledged mistake, yes. Yeah. And emptiness of a teaching is not to erase mistake. Emptiness of teaching is not to erase samsara. Emptiness of a teaching is acknowledging samsara. Nirvana and samsara both. Okay, so here, emptiness as we should not. When we say emptiness, in the practice of emptiness, of an antidote of samsara.
So do you mean that you could still make mistakes, but there's not so much on it? Is that what you mean? There's not so much attachment, or it's just part of everything? Mistakes or not mistakes?
I mean, like, so basically, sometimes we might see emptiness is somehow is negate mistake. And I think just to point that emptiness really acknowledging mistake. So now we need to understand wisdom realizing emptiness is basically it acknowledging mistake, is validated. You can say it's validated mistake. No?
Yeah.
Without one, you couldn't have the other, though.
Exactly. So then we need to look at it. What is the emptiness role, the wisdom realizing emptiness role into the mistake? And our own meditation in emptiness, what we're trying to accomplish. Not to make a mistake. But our meditation in emptiness also acknowledges the mistake. Our practice of meditation in emptiness acknowledges karma, but our practice of emptiness also tries to not to accumulate more further negativity karma. So when you look at the rule of wisdom realizing emptiness in our life, is basically sometimes we use, this mistake happened, it's okay. We use this kind of terminology. What do you think? It's okay, it's not okay. Huh? It's not okay. If individual practitioners practicing meditation of emptiness, but same time can say mistake is not okay. You're practicing meditation of emptiness, saying mistake is okay. You're practicing compassion and saying, if you're not practicing the compassion, the mistake is not okay, it's not acceptable. Can we be compassionate and same time mistake is unacceptable? You're practicing wisdom realizing emptiness, saying mistake is not acceptable. It's not okay. These can be contradicted.
Someone makes room for mistakes. If they're trying to practice it, it makes room for mistakes.
Okay, so that's the good. You're practicing compassion. You're practicing wisdom realizing emptiness. Then your interaction with the world. Can you be mistake is not okay? You cannot say that. You cannot be that. That's we need to look at it. Is compassion, but same time, what really we over here doing? Compassion is, it's, negativity, karma is not okay. Mistake is not okay. But still you can be compassionate, isn't it?
So it's both, maybe.
Huh?
It's okay and not okay. It's not okay, but then it's okay because you learn.
Okay, it's not okay, but it's okay. Okay, but not okay. It looks like Nagarjuna's rude wisdom. It goes okay, but not okay. So here I think usually, now we have to look at it. Usually when we say not okay, it's much more pain here. This is much more self. It's not okay for me. It's much more like not okay because of my expectation. Can we have a not okay, unacceptable without expectation? So that's the kind of key thing when I'm talking. Like the meditation of emptiness is not necessarily changing the surface behavior, but the ingredient inside the behavior we need to change it. We're not changing the culture itself, but the ingredient in the culture is changing. I think that's what I'm saying. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, basically, based on that, you still be saying it's not acceptable, it's not right. Meditation and emptiness, suddenly you become kind of how you say, freely open. You can do whatever you want. It's fine. I'm compassionate. Meditation in emptiness, meditation in compassion still can be quite strict, isn't it? And that strict is not based on my own expectation, but I think the tension, we have this kind of, even the expectation is a powerful emotion. If we shift object of your expectation instead of my expectation, if we're able to change to what I'm expecting for well-being, can we change like that way, like for your own future, or instead of what I wanted? Or this not possible. It have to come back to me.
Are you saying our expectation of benefiting others instead of ourself, and that opens it up to be non-judgmental and makes more acceptance and having that compassionate equanimity or something like that?
It also seems that when we do mess up, because we do, is that when we have more of that, but it seems that when we have more of that understanding of wisdom, then we can hold ourselves accountable. I think there's an accountability to ourselves. So we hold ourselves accountable for that particular action with not identifying with that self-flagellation or whatever that is, that we're able to be accountable in a very clean and clear way. Go, oh, I did that. I will be accountable. And I think that wisdom helps with that.
Well, it's more productive than guilt.
Yeah.
It's just let you wallow there. If you're accountable, then maybe you change your behavior the next time. You say, yes, I messed up. I'll do better the next time, as opposed to,
oh my gosh,
horrible me.
Does it paralyze you?
Yeah.
But there's also an ounce of awareness in there that is needed, I think, because all depending on how we are brought up. My awareness, my morals or whatever could be very different because of the way I was brought up. So I know when I came to the States to begin with, things were so different, and it took me a long time, and I was very confused for I think the first 7 years were really difficult. But by now, it's wonderful, it's all good, because I now understand a lot of, the America growing up. So I have compassion for America now, for a lot of the things that I thought was really peculiar to begin with. But without the awareness of the history. So the history can also be good.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I was thinking also that with the wisdom, with some wisdom of awareness, looking at the situation, impermanence, like being able to really think about, this isn't going to last forever. I did this, it's done. And being able to analyze what are the causes that led to this. And so that can be able to help us change to a direction that we'd rather be going in, spinning around. So I think that impermanent aspect of wisdom is really important to also keep in mind.
So coming back to so basically the rule of our wisdom or rule of a mediator, I'm using this word mediator, I don't know why, it's mediator and the wisdom, like a meditation of emptiness or meditation of impermanent. So maybe the two questions will be, like once you wake up morning, do you think you're going to choose to meditate in emptiness and impermanent first, or you better choose meditation in compassion? So that's two questions. So tomorrow, should I do Ashtanga yoga or what you call another? Okay, if we ask this question, what you think, like based on observation of what's happening today, and tomorrow morning maybe we do that. Like today, I'm not feeling good, so maybe tomorrow I should not drink coffee. Although I like too much coffee, my stomach is upset or something. maybe we say it doesn't matter. Even your stomach is upset, I need to have drink coffee. Or in my case, sometimes I'll say like, okay, butter tea. I know I'm having a headache today, so maybe tomorrow I need to slow down my butter tea. So just kind of putting in a perspective, like maybe should I do more meditation of compassion, or should I do more meditation about impermanent? If you self-inquired, if you self-questions, what you think? Usually we'll say like, yeah, both. But both is possible or not possible. Maybe you're putting too many things in your plate. Okay, so now if that is the reality, too many things in your plate, what you should take in your plate first? Compassion first or the wisdom first? What do you think, Jordan? You're going to say something almost.
Both.
Both.
Isn't it according to where your mind is? Like sometimes the wisdom will lead to compassion, but sometimes if something happens, say the day before, then you could think of compassion. I don't know. For me, it would be what I feel like.
What will be your breakfast? Spiritual breakfast. Okay, you need to survive from 9 to 5. What will be your spiritual breakfast? It's much more. You usually oatmeal with a blueberry, or or so here, like, what will be the oatmeal? Is much more compassion, or is much more be the wisdom?
It seems like wisdom is the glue that binds everything.
Okay.
But it seems like a lot of the teachings say compassion and bodhicitta. It's like the leading up to
Okay.
how that realization can go.
So although yes, compassion is widely advised, but when you're looking on the ground, on the situation, on the ground, are we ready for? There's lots of cleanup need to be done.
Yeah, it's really
There's lots of so from that perspective, compassion is the ideal suggestion, but right now there's no space, or it is a really mess need to be cleaned up. So maybe the breakfast, the first things must be maybe the wisdom meditation, the mediator. There's too much complex there. The mediator need to be clean up the path.
Yeah, it makes your mind spacious.
Making mind spacious. Maybe as simple as that is like, okay, for my spring, I will start with the cleanup on my mind, clean up my garage, my closet or something, and then maybe in the summer I'll bring some kind of nice things. So maybe basically, if you look at kind of like a plate, maybe majority is the wisdom. Maybe you have at the beginning, maybe there's a small portion as a compassion in the daily dose of your meditation. If you're trying to do a whole plate of compassion and very small, piece of a wisdom, maybe it's not the way to work. The breakfast, you're not able to digest that breakfast. Not able to digest that breakfast. So maybe that should be more wisdom, more wisdom with a tinge of loving kindness in the plate.
Well, isn't there a little bit of joy in the taste of wisdom? And how can that not help?
No, I was thinking another way.
Yeah.
If your plate is, whole plate is a compassion, and you have a very little, small piece of a wisdom, maybe not able to digest. You might taste good, but not able to digest.
I know what you were saying, but I was just thinking that wisdom, makes your mind spacious. It also, not that I'm claiming, wisdom and I are just like this, not at all. But a tiny taste seems to create a little bit of joy with the spaciousness. And seems very helpful.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think, so that's, I think that's the, okay.
So can I entreat you to lead us in what you feel to be the most effective wisdom, spiritual purpose meditation? This is a hard time of year too.
Yes.
The holiday season brings up lots of other, for Westerners, whether Jewish or Christian, being brought up, brings up all these family dynamics too. So perfect wisdom cutting through. Morning breakfast, I could really get it.
Okay. Yes, let's.
Just eat the blueberries.
Just eat the blueberries. Just eat the blueberries. Okay, I'll keep it in mind. I'll keep it in mind. But I think looks like our discussion all over here, what's happening is like, okay, how to have more wisdom for the holiday celebration. Oman jam den den ma pa man dro ma la cha sa lo chan za dro ma nya re be mo to da ra yi ji gun sa ma tu ri te na tam je de ma sa wa yi ge je la ra nu Jam den de ma ba ma dro ma la cha sa lo chan za dro ma da re be mo tu da ra yin ji gun sa ma tu re de na dan je de ma sa wa yi ge je la ra yin tu Om Jam Den De Ma Ba Ma Dro Ma La Cha Za Lo Chan Za Dro Ma Da Re Be Mo Tu Da Ra Yin Ji Gun Sa Ma Tu Re Tu Na Dan Je De Ma Sawa yi ge che la ra do. So I was thinking how to deal with the holiday. How to deal with the holiday. And I remember when I went to my family house and one of my sister telling me one story, one of my brother telling me one story. And when I hear, there's real, it looks like this story real. And I look here, the total opposite story, but this looks like a real story. So anyway, I think fundamentally there's some kind of uneasiness that we bring in such a gathering, karmic, that uneasiness kind of, from the beginning there's nothing is ready to explode. So this kind of uneasiness, I would say, uneasiness. So basically, fundamentally, I think that kind of way to let go, that kind of uneasiness, is already kind of built up kind of situation. It's already kind of geared up. So I think fundamentally, not so much about what's going to happen in the story. That's not the real story, but we think that's a real story. Real story is already started in our own house, where is already that buzz that we created within our own mind. I think that's kind of like the number one, that noticing, because we almost thinking there's something going to happen there. No, it's happened already here. That buzz is the real story. That's kind of like, okay, things going to happen. There's something, there's already, we are anticipating already. That anticipation is really the way we need to kind of pay attention. Over there, I think it's okay. It's not a big deal. It's can be surprised, can be really everything goes smooth and anything. So what we should pay attention, that anticipation, that mind that already making a story, the mind that already kind of. So here, from the, like I think by our own self, when these thoughts are arising, I think that's the place where we can work better, because if we don't pay attention this one, then things can get explode over there, because we are well rehearsed already. So that rehearsal needs to be break down. That rehearsal, that mental rehearsal, that rehearsal. So here, that rehearsal, so I think like, so now the question comes, should we replace that rehearsal with something, or should we let go that rehearsal? Or so what is the option here? So I think replacement will be the best. Then I think replacing with that rehearsal, maybe we should do some kind of nice rehearsal. Not negative rehearsal. Maybe some kind of positive rehearsal. So maybe we need to change the rehearsal. The rehearsal for the gathering, the holiday gathering, that rehearsal needs to be changed. So I was thinking, if we change the rehearsal, what should we rehearsal for that gathering? Okay, so the rehearsal, I was thinking maybe. Basically, we're bringing our body, speech, and mind, and for the party, for the gathering. Bodies, we as a human being, we as a whole thing, our body, speech, and mind will be there. So, basically, the three door we call, like from some of the teaching, they call like mindfulness practice. We have to apply for the three doors: body, speech, and mind. So basically, here I was thinking. With our body and with our body speech, the rehearsal should be like, okay, what I can bring some kind of, what can be so engaging, allow to engaging, But from the mental, what should not engage? Because the minute the mental get involved, so I think with the mental we need to think more. Like what I can let go. And with the body and speech, what I can bring for the gathering. With the mental, maybe much more rehearsal will be like, what should I not bring? More pay attention. With the mental, more pay attention to what should I not bring. With the speech and with our body, what should I bring? Maybe some kind of like that rehearsal will be. Usually we, rehearsal like all everything, like all these different negative rehearsals. So fundamentally, so that kind of, I think, some kind of like a noticing negative rehearsal, replacing negative rehearsal with a positive rehearsal, and building mindfulness that. What should I not bring and what should I bring? How about that? That's my proposal. Yeah, changing the rehearsal. In a rehearsal is some type of meditation. changing the meditation. And so it's so much, as we were talking earlier, how the wisdom play important role, because there's a two family gathering happening, external family gathering happening, and internal individual family members, they have their own mental family gatherings happening simultaneously, side by side. And if this mental family gathering goes wrong, then everything's go wrong. No matter how much the homemade food we bring. So therefore, this is, I think, here. So early, as we were talking earlier, the wisdom. It is okay. It is. Am I going with a kind of? Am I going with a well prepared? Or am I going with a kind of ease? Am I going with the inspiration? Am I going with the discipline? Which kind of state am I myself going to go there? And I think we should not feel like I'm kind of prepared. It's not about competition. It is not game. It is so all that thing is almost like that. It can be similar like when I was doing my final exam. It was stressful, it was a kind of tense, and it was a kind of tense. Then I called my teacher, I thought this final year of my study, if end up like this, doesn't look good. It's kind of stressful. And then my teacher told me, because it's a very, very tricky, because this Haram Geshe exam is, there's no second chance, only you have to rebirth one more next life. So you have to take whole rebirth and go through all the class and get the exam again. So there's no second chance. That's it. This lifetime, one time shot, and that's it. If you fail, it is failed. You accept and you move on. So there's a little bit that kind of, and the previous, my peers, there's 2 or 3 of them failed. And there was a little bit kind of tense, and once you kind of fail from that exam, what happened is complicated, because the college, the way they're coming from, they say they still respect as a Larampa, but there is an overall organization. He didn't pass, so you won't recognize. But anyway, then it affects how you enter in Tantric college. There's several things affect, but then at the end they say okay, you still failed, but you will not necessarily recognized by the whole organization as a Harampa, but you're still we respect you as a Harampa. So you get pretty much same status like all the rest of the class. He will take it, like he enter in a different class. So anyway, the long story short, so I think preparation should not take into the actual event. That's the key thing. Sometimes I'm prepared, then you have to let go entire preparation. You well rehearse, then on the actual things, you need to totally, you should not bring the rehearsal into the actual things. In the actual, you have to be so free. You have no attached to the rehearsal, no detached to anything. That kind of also for my exam, I cannot be whole night preparing and reading. I need to sleep. I need to be as normal as possible. I cannot be tied up in exam in the day. So therefore the exam can happen really good. You cannot. My teacher told me, don't try to read and prepared. That's it. Preparation happens. You need to totally state of mind in fully relaxed. You don't go last minute rush. That creates it can take down entire down. So I think the positive rehearsal we did as much as possible. The actual engagement, I think we have to be totally kind of a relaxed, totally relaxed. So basically, pay attention for kind of a let going, kind of ease and really trying to being in that in the present moment. Maybe phone. Okay, so so really being in that kind of present moment. Okay, so I think that's kind of simple thought, simple awareness.
What happened with your test?
My test, luckily I passed. Luckily I passed. Luckily I passed. I think during my examination, I think there's one he not able to make it, or one or two something not able to make it. But anyway, I think that's the key thing. Sometimes we prepare and we bring the preparation into the actual, and that's the way we make mistake. And when the actual preparation, actual time comes, we have to totally let go of the preparation, totally depart from the preparation. So we have that transition with the peace. Otherwise, we bring that rehearsal and that. So although now it's easy to say the word to let go, let go, but what is the success rate? What we can bring the success rate is. Yeah, of course we'll see the rehearsal, but in the rehearsal, the ingredient of the wisdom, how much the dose of wisdom was an integrated part of the rehearsal, and I think that will make. So now the question comes: what will the wisdom? What will the wisdom will be? What will the wisdom will be? I think the wisdom will play important role. So then, rest of the compassion, nonviolent communication, or peace communication, or all rest of things can be naturally happen once we implement the wisdom in the first place. So here, what will be the wisdom? What is the challenge for the wisdom? I think that will be the fundamental question. You know, what will be the wisdom is required? What will be the challenge for the wisdom? Okay, so fundamental challenge for the wisdom is the things that we are not able to let go. We're stuck in one corner. That's it. This is the truth. That's the ultimate truth. That stuck into one corner. That's that. The wisdom, the most challenges. So here, the responsibility of a wisdom is to deconstructing that stuck, that stiff corner that we built it up into whatever the reality we created. So really, kind of we need to breathe more related with that situation and making much more flexibility and able to ease and able to kind of. And that becomes so concrete, that corner becomes so concrete because we are hitting only from one side of a corner. That made it very concrete. Basically, we're trying to kind of penetrating that corner from one perspective very strongly. Okay, so way to kind of like almost like the griff, kind of one by one, like kind of we need to kind of loosen that up as much as possible to see, well, I think that's the way is the yoga practice taking place. That discipline. Okay, I think it can be very how you say, journey with that wisdom. The another part of the, although we will say like which apply also counter respond, put yourself into very kind of confusing states. It counter respond. That corner have also some kind of wisdom. It will apply back. It's not totally kind of like it have a kind of logic and a reasons and it will have a counter logic and a reason and wisdom to feed back. But again, it is not all about clarifying and answering that wisdom. It's not about that. If you're trying to answer that wisdom, it have an infinite question. It have an infinite logic. So the trick is not so about the responding and replying for that wisdom. I think that our efforts is how to loosen and kind of like acknowledging, and it's same thing like mindfulness measure, acknowledge, but you don't follow. Acknowledge. If you answer, you're following. Okay, it's kind of same method. You acknowledge, but you basically kind of like you accept it, but you haven't taken the answer as an answer. Accepting as a kind of like allowing such an energy, which is promoted by that, that's bad because of this and that. There's all this logic and reason kind of putting through. But you're allowing, you're not blocking. That wisdom have the same kind of, you repress that negative corner. If you repress that negative corner, it will backfire, same thing. So basically wisdom method, wisdom approach is just acknowledging, in allowing that expression, but our discipline, wisdom discipline, will be not following that. So that's our most discipline is like, usually we follow, we cut, and then we end up in negative rehearsal. So the key for the wisdom, the most method practice is to that wisdom, positive wisdom, to able to apply. Our discipline will be not to get caught into that acknowledgement process. Okay. So usually, I think many times we get caught, and we are not able to stop. There's no way to stop. It's very powerful, very strong. It's very strong. It's impossible. There's karma. There's a habit. There's so many things. So only our method is, almost sometimes I feel like in Puerto Rico, when I go, they say, Rinpoche, be careful. If you want to go to swimming in ocean, there's an undercurrent. Once you hit undercurrent, don't swim in against it. I think exactly. I think our wisdom swimming, we should not swim against that stuck corner. Not against. There's no possible. So I think yes. So I think it's so much wisdom in terms of here is nothing's different than skillful means. It's not so much some kind of discovery, or it's not so much about some kind of new thing you saw. It's not so much about that. It's so much skillful means. How you navigate through this force of our karma and habit. The wisdom is so much about how you're going to navigate. It's not so much about suddenly you have fully different reality you saw, and hopefully that can happen in later, but at the moment I think it's how to the main responsibility of wisdom is how we're going to navigate through that wave of our karma, that now you're coming together, now you're gathering together, there's an energy build up. Okay, so one another way of looking, from Vajrasattva purification perspective, usually it gives you a 4-step, and first, basically, in such a situation, maybe, I think number one important part is some way to cultivate trust for yourself. Sometimes this is very important. Sometimes when we have strong sense of trust, or faith, or trust into our own self, that plays a very important role to how we interact with the rest of the things. So that's, I think, 4 point of our practice. They have this, actually usually you say faith or trust towards the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. But right now in this case, I was thinking like maybe this would be much more how we can have a healthy sense of identification of a self when we are gathering, when we have some kind of because we have lots of feedback back and forth. Sometimes it destabilizes sense of self. So I think a healthy sense of self that is just so compatible within your own self. So that's I mean, so when it's a trust in terms of awareness, not so much you're following yourself, but there's a certain level of a comfort within their own self. So building that sense of comfort within their own self becomes, I think, the fundamental. And that comfort base, then I think this sense of openness, then respect or pay attentioning, and that kind of openness towards the other living. So that's, I will say, like a fundamental, sometimes when we gathering, there's sometimes we put some kind of expectation for within our own self. I should speak, I should not speak, I should stand up, I should sit down, I will move. There's lots of those stories plays there, and we lose the it's the same thing like at the beginning when I was starting to teaching Dharma, and then I have too much preparation. And I took my preparation into the teaching place, and I have to teach for that time. I had to teach for 2 hours in Deer Park, and my preparation was finished in 15 minutes. So whatever I prepared is gone in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So I was still left like how to kill the time for still more time, so many time left. And I also, you see the clock, now almost finishing, it's still 10 minutes. And it creates more anxiety. So I think it's the same way is there's a, sense of, all those preparations, also is really good. I'm not saying you should not prepare anything. Everything can happen spontaneously. Preparations are really good. Preparations are really good. It's important. Preparations are important. But the problem is we're trying to bring the preparation into the actual time. So anyway, going back to the point is that there is a sense of ease within our own self. I think that's really important, okay? So that opens everything, listening, pay attention, and all kind of positive qualities can open it up. So because there's no any kind of noise or there's no any kind of drum is drumming within our own self. So we have a clear space to interact in anything. Then from the proponent power, when you look at for the that's the second and third, but you can go with the full kind of that kind of things, but obstacle can come, surprise things happen. So they have to have a certain mindfulness that you are prepared for. You are prepared for the surprise. You're prepared for the surprise. You're prepared for the surprise. So there is won't catch you out of nowhere, but you are already aware. So therefore, that kind of like awareness and kind of mindfulness and readiness and pay attention will be really important. And then I think easy. Then in a gathering, a kind of easy communication. Your communication is. I think it should not be kind of like a intention based, and your communication should be like very spontaneous based. Your communication. The minute you think I should do this, I should do that, I think that creates the obstacle because your mind is again making up some kind of, you are picking up through your own imprints and history and story. Instead of that, state of communication should become like a really spontaneous, and everything's a spontaneous as much possible, the spontaneity communication. So if you don't feel communication, then also that's also fine. I think you don't have to be something to saying and something to have to. So it's so much all being wherever you're being should be very true to yourself. That's you are not trying to follow something or some order. So I think that kind of like a very. This Thanksgiving, I went to my relatives in the East Coast, and and I was because they all are playing. They all have like so many things they're doing together, and I was just kind of like just observing and staying there. And I said, okay, that's fine. I don't have to do anything. Because they're playing different games, and I don't know how to all these different games to play. So I'm like outside it, not able. But anyway, I was telling myself, that's fine. I'm just enjoying. I just observe and. So anyway, even nothing. So sometimes gathering these things, we feel like maybe that kind of non-verbal communication can be also good communication. Good communication. Yeah, I think then my sister's house, because I told my sister, okay, don't worry about me, I'll just take care of myself, don't try to bring me tea and this, I'll just take care, I'll go in the kitchen and do myself. So I want to have that freedom whenever I want. Otherwise, they want to make me timing what time I want to bring this. No, don't worry, I'll just do myself. But her husband wants, I think I might make some mess in the kitchen, so he really wanted to make me go to the kitchen. No, he said, no, what you want? So, so then I was, I'm driving him crazy, so I tried to stay away from kitchen. He seems like quite, quite in the kitchen. You don't want to mess the kitchen. Okay, so I think I think fundamentally wisdom can bring some kind of ease in our life. That's I think the key thing. We have this life, this short life. In one point of view, is a short life, but due to lack of wisdom, I think we tend to ruin this short life. It ruined the party of a precious human rebirth. So we need a good wisdom to enjoy this. And sometimes when you the retreats, when you go long retreat, then you're able to acknowledge your life. Your life is not just kind of sweep through your, it's like you can feel your life. When you're in a retreat, you feel, I exist. That's so. And when we are not retreat, because the mind is so much making this noise. We're caught in so many things, and so basically, I think okay, so that's kind of things. Okay, any questions?
It has nothing to do with what you just said other than the degree.
Mm-hmm.
So the Dalai Lama also goes through the Vampa
Examinations.
So what happens if he doesn't make it?
I mean, I was during when he took in his exam, although he's on the surface, he's taking all his exam, behind the scene, it was like a chaos, because he said should he escape? They have whole plans going on behind us, because he's doing all these examinations at the Gandhian monastery is much more further, and there's some behind their planning. Maybe we'll do the exam over there. So he's traveling, going further from Patala, and they thought maybe that's the good timing to escape. So during his final examination, there's so many political turmoils, and I think they one group are planning, okay, maybe this is the good timing to escape, and trying to make all plan to how to reach to India. And one planning group saying maybe this is not the right time. So it's like behind the scene was so chaos, but at the end they didn't make the, he went there, he did his final exam in Ugandan, and then he still returned back to Lhasa. So I think that during that time, maybe 1 day or 2 days, some kind of journey to Ugandan. And I'm just imagine, you're doing here your exam, at the same time there's another topic running parallel. Should we take off from this is the right timing to take off to India? Or this is not the right timing, It's amazing, to, but there's a lots of great scholars also who doesn't not necessarily do an exam, like Larampa things.
Yeah.
Don't do it. They will do like simple Geshe test and then move on with the. So I don't know. It is a. This grading system is coming more and more, but I think it looks like in the early time, if you are gold, you will shine. It's not somebody need to validate it. And based on that philosophy, is okay. Even you labeled Geshe Larampa, but doesn't matter if you don't have the real gold. It looks like a gold, but so there's I think certain time in history, I think they took that approach, like okay, we'll give you that kind of title, but it is just merely title, but it wasn't too big a deal. And then when later on, when they're trying to systematizing, much more systematizing, and then when they're systematizing, then it became some things. And system is also good, and sometimes system creates some kind of trouble also.
Is the system still? Just recently, the women and nuns have not been able to do this until recently.
Yeah, Geshe-ma, yeah. And this German nun, she's really, from the beginning when I met early time, she was so good. Her understanding. I think she's the first German. And amazing, I saw several interviews about her. I think she's the first Geshe-ma.
And of course, all the ones coming up from Kapan.
Yeah, then there's lots of more coming from.
I think there were 12. Yeah, and I think more than that. I think around 30 coming up. So I told the monks of Sergei, watch that. yes, definitely. In Kopan, they say like the nuns are much more advanced in philosophy than monks. They acknowledge that the Geshes who train is like, if they have a debating discussion, none will beat up all the monks. They're really good at it and sharp and it's good. It will be good.
This is probably not a 3-minute question.
Okay, 3-minute question. Okay.
I'll just ask it anyways to make some good karma for everybody. What does existence by its own characteristics mean?
Okay.
Characteristics.
I think we use so many different words, but basically, our expression, when you say, this is truly exists. Look at here, we have this expression. What do you mean this is not true, this not truly exists? Look at here. Look at here, we can see it and feel it. I think the phenomena itself becomes evidence of true existence. So meditation of emptiness is all about phenomena itself becomes evidence of non-truly existence. So the training is, this proves, by my touching to this cup, proves this not truly exist. Right now for me, this truly exists. I can feel it. What do you mean not truly exist? That response we have natural, so meditation of emptiness. So virtue of characterly existence, this label is basically here. It is its own evidence to existence. It is evidence by itself.
And its conventional nature.
Yeah. So usually from the Madhyamikan they say fingerprints is in the mind. Not that that's just the basis. Really existence is imputed by the mind.
So it has to appear to our sense consciousnesses. There's this question in Western philosophy, about the tree in the forest that falls.
Mm-hmm.
Does it really fall if does it make a sound if nobody's there to hear it? And same way with the cup, that appears to our senses, so it must exist. There it is, right there. But without mind present to.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I mean, like, we make a sound, but if we can say, when there's nobody, does tree have a color? If you ask that question. Because color is when there's nobody there, in the forest, there's a green color, green tree. I kind of same question. Is the same as the sound? If we say there's no color, color is the light, and so many things. Color is not by the tree itself. Color is kind of maybe some work done by our brain, some work done by the dependent origination of a light, and so on and so forth. So then we have this green tree. So if there's nobody, if there's no light, what you're going to say? Anyway, but I think, the minute from my point of view, the minute we're expressing such a circumstances, your mind is already there. Your body is not there. When you say there's nobody there, we are talking nobody's body there. The minute you say there's a nobody, you're talking about a body, not about the mind. The minute you say mind is already there. I think. Body is not there, definitely. Mind is already went there. Mind went already there. Okay, thank you.